We are now live. Matt, welcome. Welcome to my podcast.
Thank you.
Welcome to my man cave.
Wow, I'm not in the man cave, but
no, you would be though, sort of. I mean, if we weren't kind of all on lockdown, you would have been invited to the house, and you would have had more of the kind of like the table, the face-to-face table, the two mics,
the alley video.
The alley video, well, and all the other videos as well. I'd have you know, I've got 30. Well, what have I got? I've got probably done about 13. You're probably number 33, but there's been 13 podcast episodes, so that's 13 weeks of podcasts that we've currently done. So it's almost a third of the. We're in 3 months of the year. 13 weeks I've actually managed to do it. I've promised myself that I would actually just keep knocking content out and have a real good go at it this year, and well, there you go. So just keep going.
You have to have like a group one of all people that have been on before and just have a huge chat type thing.
Get them all. It'd probably have to be video related. The thing is, I find I have actually been asked to do like a couple of cheers, by the way. Cheers.
Cup of coffee. Cheers.
That's usually my. I've kind of switched. I usually have a coffee when I do the ones where people come to the house, unless like the one of the graffiti artist, my mate Alex, that came over. He decided to bring some Cavassier over, and we proceeded to go through brandy all evening. So that was a bit of a long podcast, that one.
Drunken podcast. They're always fun.
It was a tipsy podcast, I'd probably say. It got a bit drunken after, but there you go. And I've got there's my co-host, which is now bugging me. I'm recording. Go away. So I have actually had people say, oh, you should do podcasts with like a couple of guests and anything like that. The thing is, if you do video that way, everybody talks over each other. And it gets just too much, and it's just like murder. It's just ear murder, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of something like that. You have to have people that are familiar with podcasts and everything, and they know to give each other a chance to talk. And if somebody else is talking, then you don't try and talk over it, like in a pub or whatever. And it's got to be separated.
Even with this format, you've got to be patient. Because like there, we've got our timing, because we've got a little bit of latency between someone actually speaking and the next person kind of chiming in, and you just find oh he's talking, because there's that little bit of latency. It's a real juggle. It's a real stressy one. I really do feel for presenters. Like I think I watched a bit of the Graham Norton show last night, and I was like, this is really difficult. Like, the timing's all off for the jokes. When he's interviewing people, there's this little bit of delay which kind of takes you out of the moment a bit. It's a really difficult thing to juggle at the moment. So far better live. So next time we'll do it live. But so the reason I have you on. Thank you for coming on, by the way. It's been a long time. It's a good excuse to talk to you because we haven't had a good chinwag in a long time.
No, it's been quite difficult for you to get me to come on.
To get you out the bloody house, more like, yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing is getting out, being in that. Well, I guess at the moment, being a natural introvert, this lockdown hasn't had as much a detrimental effect as it does on a lot of extroverts that go out regularly and stuff. A lot of my stuff is homebound and everything like that, which we're going to talk about anyway. Which is,
Well, how are you finding it anyway? I mean, I ask this of everybody. It's just a courtesy thing of like I'm generally interested to know how people are dealing with this. This strange world.
I'm doing okay, really. It was only a year ago that I had to move back home, which is a whole different story, which can be gone through at some point. So I do have the parents as company. I think it would be a lot different if I was still living on my own. Yeah. But it's kind of a lot of my hobbies and activities and everything. It's a lot of solitary type things anyway. So not being able to socialize in huge groups and everything is something I very rarely do anyway. So I'm doing okay. I'm working from home because I'm part of, I guess, the vulnerable group due to a heart condition, which is quite interesting because it's a very rare condition called Brugada syndrome, which they found out is associated with sudden adult death syndrome.
Okay.
It's an arrhythmia of the heart where if I go to sleep, at some point my heart could just stop.
Yeah. I knew it. I mean, I did, but we've kind of spoken to this a little bit about before, but I didn't know the in-depth details about it. I mean, it's an
interesting way that it actually came about. It was during my brother-in-law's 40th birthday party. Me and a friend were play fighting, and they bear hugged me and damaged my ribs. Oh. And about 2 weeks later, I woke up just struggling to breathe, chest pains. So tried to get on a bus to Ipswich Hospital, and the bus driver refused me because I was pale white. I couldn't breathe. I was wincing in pain. So eventually called an ambulance, and as soon as you say chest pains, the first thing they do is an ECG. Is an ECG or EKG? Testing like heart rhythm and everything like that for a heart attack. Yeah. And they found an arrhythmia with my heart and said, it looks like you have Brugada. Never heard of it before. So looked it up, and most people haven't heard of it before. It's one of these things. Apparently a lot of sports celebrities had it, and it's killed them. And they don't know that they've had it until after it's one of those things that unless you have, like I had, an ECG testing for it, you don't know you've got it until it actually kills you. So it's from all my anxieties and everything like that, this doesn't bother me. That there's nothing I can do about it. The only thing that is a foolproof thing is having an implanted defibrillator.
Okay. Which starts your heart.
Yeah,
if suddenly goes.
Starts your heart if it stops beating. And it's kind of, because I'm asymptomatic and it's not caused any issues or anything like that, they said that there's no reason for that to be done.
So you've to be fair, I mean, how long ago was this that you you said it was
6 years ago now.
6 years ago. So you've already been sort of living a sheltered existence ever since then, because you've kind of had this impending danger within you, rather than just a kind of a foreign body kind of getting hold of you, such as coronavirus or something like that. You've got an internal thing where it's like, well, you know, I've got this thing that could kill me anytime.
Yeah, it's the reason why it makes me so dangerous to COVID is because getting a high temperature can stop my heart. Whoa. So that was the reason why I got sent to work from home. Luckily, I can actually do my job from home. Yeah. But like my anxieties about it don't seem to have a huge effect on how I spend my day. It doesn't really come into my daily thing. My being an introvert and everything is a completely separate anxiety. Yeah. It's something that I've dealt with for very many years, since I was probably about late teens, which has kept me I wouldn't say antisocial. I'm not very good in crowds or anything. I'd love to go to like music concerts or something like that, but I just know that I would not function well in a huge crowd. And the biggest part of the anxiety is other people seeing me struggling. That's where the biggest part of it is I don't like people seeing me freaking out, and that brings a panic on itself. So it's kind of, I guess that's why invites for drinks and stuff like that have kind of been, I want to go, but I don't want to go because I don't want to be in that sort of state. Most of the time, it's the anticipation of it, and then like with this podcast and everything like that, it's kind of the anticipationary anxiety builds everything up to
something
so much worse than it actually is.
Like your head kind of takes you out of the game.
Yeah, and I guess being an introvert myself, it's kind of you spend most of your life in your head, so it has a huge effect on what I can and cannot do, places I can go, activities I can do. A lot of the time it's kind of, I think if I did them, then I would be okay, but the lead up to them is the part that I can't deal with. I've had it with driving lessons, I've had it with holidays, everything like that. It's kind of, the last time I went on holiday was to Greece, and I ended up in a 4-day panic attack, and that was just hell on earth. And
I think that is
after that happens, you kind of go, right, I'm just staying away from that. I'm not going to put myself in that position anymore.
It sounds a bit extreme though. I mean, I think going to a foreign location is stressful on anyone, I think, at any time. I mean, even if when you're on holiday, I'm going on holiday, but then when you get there, it's just like, well, should I go down that street? Should I do this? Am I going to be okay here?
It's dangerous
because you're not in your familiar environment. So there is kind of things like that. Maybe you should have done some baby steps and go on holiday closer to home, like Norfolk or something.
I am planning to. I'm planning to once this whole lockdown is out of the way, and I'm hoping a lot more Britons taking holidays in Britain, and kind of bring back that the money there. And I'm thinking like, well, maybe a long weekend somewhere shouldn't be too bad. And if I'm only like a few hours from home and stuff, and it does get really bad, then I can still come out. But usually, strangely enough, going anywhere by myself, I am a lot better than I am going with anybody else. Oh,
because you're worried that you're spoiling their time?
Yeah, that I'm going to be a burden, that they're going to be disappointed in me, that it feels like, I think you went on to a bit with Ali, it's kind of, and I think John Martin's one, where it's kind of a taboo subject, and it's like you don't share that type of thing with people, and it feels like if you do suffer from it, it's like to share it with somebody and tell somebody that you are suffering is like revealing a weakness, when I know it's not a weakness, it's an affliction. It's not a weakness. No, I think it's a part of somebody being extra sensitive to their surroundings and noises and sensations, emotions, everything like that. And it's just an inability to be able to recognize and not control but accept those feelings that it creates. People can skydive and stuff like that, and they get nervous, but they know how to keep it semi in check. But somebody with a anxiety disorder is kind of, you can't keep it in check because it's all you think about, and it's everything about you, and it just builds up and up and up and up until it becomes a panic attack, and that's when you just lose all function, all I guess higher abilities to recognize what's happening, and you just think you're dying, and it's absolutely crazy. And I feel for anybody that goes through it. I've been I think Ali mentioned it, but Suffolk Mind, and when I was at the darkest time, I went to Suffolk Mind, and they were absolutely brilliant, and the courses that they put you on and the training that they give you is sound, but it's kind of when these things are happening, you can't think straight. and the worse they get, the least you're able to go, okay, I need to deep breathe, or okay, I need to slow my heart rate, or okay, I need to stop worrying and do this. And all you want to do is just run, and you don't know where to and what from, and you're just saying, I need to be out of this body and out of this mind. And it's like one of those things where if the more you concentrate on it, the opposite effect to what you want happens. So you want to calm down, and all it does is make you more panicky. I think I read Darren Brown done a simulation of it with it was like a world-renowned tightrope walker, and he'd gone like across the Grand Canyon and stuff, and never fallen off. And he used his skills of manipulation to speak to this guy, and he got him to walk across a tightrope which was a couple of meters off the ground or something. And it was just from what he said to the guy, in order to make him go inside his head, he ended up falling off, even though he never had before. And it's like this, he somehow manipulated what was going on inside this guy's head for this tightrope walk, and he done the complete opposite to what he knows he can do.
That's true. Well, this is the mind, isn't it? This is the mind, and fascinates me. Well, it's funny the way that this has gone, because this I need this. I'm like you. I need something. I need a hobby. I need to make progress in something. Something that's challenging, something that actually gets me off my arse and like, you know, stops playing video games and stuff like that. This has definitely become that. And then through that, what that's actually done is it's actually put me in contact. You are not the first person to actually use this format to actually kind of express the troubles that you've had with this. So I've had, I've had Ali, of course. He decided to share that. I had my friend Michael just last night. He wanted to talk about when he struggled a couple of years ago, when he was having panic attacks and things like that. And he wanted to share his, and he wanted to talk about it. And he said, well, talking about it's good. And then I've had my own kind of experience as well in counselling and things like that, which I found very helpful, and I got through it and everything. It was a particularly traumatic time in my life. But again, we need to smash through the stigma and just say, look, it's fine. It's fine. There's still people that will still say, man up. There's still people out there that will be like, you need to man up. You need to get yourself a beer. Man up. Go get a shag. Man up. Yeah. And then that will sort it all. But no, it doesn't. It doesn't actually sort it. When you feel physically sick, drained, like you can't move, like you're shaking, just because what your head has got you thinking, that's that's a real weird sensation, and I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. And it's really kind of hard to kind of find the little tools, and it is little tools, tiny little tools that only you can find. Only you can find those tools. There's a bunch of different ways out there, but you've got to find the one that works for you. I found cleaning at the time was very therapeutic. I put my headphones on and podcast headphones, cleaning, and I would just clean, and it would be something that would be totally focused on, and that's it. And it was very therapeutic, and I felt better after. I almost flipped when the dogs like ran across my clean floor with muddy paws, but so that didn't work. That kind of little bit of counter there, but I think it's important. And I like the way that as well that you said about the, you're introvert and things like that. So you throw yourself into your internal hobbies, pastimes, your projects. And I mean, this is one of the main reasons why I got you on here. Mm-hmm. This is a very good coping mechanism. This is a great thing for you to do. Definitely.
I started it about 5 years ago. I can't actually remember why I bought my first printer, but
so just to recap, first time we've actually mentioned it, You are a 3D printer enthusiast or 3D model enthusiast. What is the actual term I should say?
I think they like to call themselves makers.
Makers.
Yeah,
makers. Sounds like something out of Tron.
It came around from. I think there's a couple of YouTube influencers, and they began. When they went to conventions, they thought, well, what could I make for my fans that they can take home with them and stuff like that? And they come up with the term makers coins, where they 3D print coins with their logo on it in order to give it to fans and stuff like that. And there's other makers that are on YouTube. One of them is called Maker's Muse, and there's 3D Print and Nerd and stuff like that. But I think the term that they like to call themselves is makers. Which is interesting. Okay. I don't call myself anything. It's a hobby for me, and I guess to explain it, it's 3D printing
which we can hear whirring in the background right now.
Possibly. There's a couple working in the background just now. What they do is they basically extrude plastic, and they take a plastic reel,
mm-hmm.
and it melts it down, and they extrude it, and then the plastic re-solidifies into an object. You use a computer program which then slices objects, say like an egg or a cup, or I guess like this.
Mm-hmm.
So basically the program is called a slicer, and what it will do is it will take this cup and it will slice it in tiny little layers all the way down to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And then it tells the printer how to build it back up. And currently the printers that I'm using now, they use 0.2 millimeter layers.
Right.
So each slice is just 0.2 millimeters high.
Right.
And then after, I think this was about 8 hours, you get a cup.
8 hours will get you that cup?
Yes.
And the cup will be, and it will be a plastic cup?
It's made out of PLA. I will have to look up the actual full name of it.
It's not like silicone or something like that, is it? Or
there's a whole bunch of them. You've got PLA, which is the main brand. It's made from corn.
Oh, okay.
And you've got ABS, which is it's a harder plastic when it's used, but it's also toxic while it's printing, so it's not very good to use for the bedroom, in a room. So
with the kind of, because it's made of corn and everything, is it biodegradable and everything? Is it how long do they kind of last? So if I put a hot drink in that cup, how long would it last?
This would be pretty well, actually. There's people that have used PLA flower pots. It's quite thick, and there's an inside wall, and then there's an outside wall, and inside is an infill. So it's pretty good. It will hold coffee. It will hold tea.
Will it degrade? Will it kind of taint anything?
It will eventually. But people have had like PLA flower pots outside for 2 to 3 years and seen absolutely no degradation. It's like a selling point is that it's biodegradable, but it will take years for it to actually.
I'm focusing very much on the. I'm focusing very much on kind of like the. Sorry about that. I've got a dog barking now. I don't know what he's barking at. I think he's probably neighbours or something. So yeah, I'm focusing on like a kind of like a very standard item in this, but what I kind of really want to get into now, this is what sparked my interest in everything in what you're actually doing, is the actual 3D models that you're creating, is brilliant. Now, hold on.
Oh, you the pictures.
I've got some pictures, yeah. So I'm just gonna. Hopefully these come through on the recording. If not, I will flip them back in so that I will do a bit of fancy editing. So you can see the one that we've got up at the moment. So this is an Iron Maiden bust. I'd probably say it was a bust.
Yep.
And I think it. I mean, the level of detail on this is quite amazing. So you would take this, and this again. Is this the actual? Is it the same material as you've just shown me in that cup?
Yeah, that's made out of PLA as well. Yeah.
Okay, but it looks great, doesn't it? I mean, look at that. It looks really good. So how long did that take to make?
It came in 3 pieces, I believe. 4 pieces. I believe it was the main body with the hands, and then the base was on another print, and also the chains.
Yeah, okay. The chains are separate. Okay.
I would probably say in all, total printing time was probably about 90 hours.
90 hours. Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the couple that I've had like 8 hours, they're very short prints that I do. So I think the longest one I've had is, I think, about 7 days continuous printing.
7 days continuous printing. Whoa. Do they use a lot of energy, the printers?
Not a great deal. The fans are pretty small. I think it comes to about, I usually have 2 to 3 printers going at once. I think it's about an extra £1 a day in electricity.
I love that Mandalorian one.
The only problem is when you get about 80 hours into a print and it fails. That's when you start kicking yourself.
Is that a hardware or a software fail that normally does?
The hardware is, I mean, it's deaf, dumb, and blind. The printer, it doesn't know what it's printing, where the print is, or how far along the print it is. Mm-hmm. It's called G code, which is being told where to move the nozzle to, how much to extrude, and then where to move to next. So if it knocks the print off of the print bed, it doesn't know it's knocked the print off, so it will just continue to extrude, and people get balls of spaghetti when they wake up in the morning where it's extruded into thin air and they've got no model left.
That must be like, no.
Yeah, it gets to that point. They're just kind of like, it happens even to the best of us. I mean, I've been doing it 5 years now, and I'll get a failure. Sometimes it's human error. Other times it will be the print came away from the bed. There's my shed. The one on the left is in the middle of being rebuilt. That was a printer. It was my second printer, and it gave me hell. So I had a massive tantrum, and I took it apart to the bolts.
Yeah.
And now I'm rebuilding it again with new components and everything like that.
You sound like you've become an engineer in it now. I mean, this is your primary thing. I mean, this is your passion at the moment, isn't it?
Yes, it's just it's wonderful. It's a beautifully frustrating hobby. It's beautiful when they come out like this, and the prints come out perfectly fine and ready for painting. It's frustrating when something doesn't go right, and because most of the printers come out of China, there can be issues. They get shipped halfway across the world, and bolts come loose, parts get bent or broken, stuff like that. But most of the printer is kind of, you get to a point where you can, if you have enough spares, you can rebuild the entire thing. There's nothing really that would permanently break it.
You're doing a full size one of this one. bit of a Star Wars fantasy there.
Yeah, you could. It would take it doesn't have to take a very long time. You can get, because the ones behind me, they're using a 0.4 millimeter nozzle, which the hole in it is 0.4 millimeters in diameter.
That Wonder Woman.
You can get nozzles with larger diameters, so then they can print bigger things faster and with larger layer heights. The only thing is they won't come out with the same quality.
So how about
a lot of people? They'll print big. Very popular after the season was the Mandalorian. People were printing the full size Mandalorian helmet. and they were using larger nodules to print it quicker, and then using primers to get rid of the layer lines.
Right. Okay. But so, do you need? I mean, you obviously need to. Do you need to apply a primer before you paint it and everything, so that the paint sticks better and stuff?
Yes, the primer will help. It's hard to see on some of the prints, but you will see layer lines from where it's been printing, and the primer will help get rid of a lot of people, once they finish their print, they'll prime it, sand it, prime it, sand it, and then paint it. It's hard to see in photographs, but you do see layer lines even on like the highest resolution, which I think my prints have been 0.1 millimeter layer heights.
Those are really
the vases
nice.
are very popular.
They're really nice. Do you sell any of these?
And they're not really. I mean, a lot of
would you
designs
sell them?
aren't
Would you
mine.
Produce them? Oh right, okay. But you could
if
resell
I made
them.
my own designs.
Oh right, because are the designs copyrighted, so you can't sell them on?
They're not copyrighted, but they're kind of, the designer will put them online and put, you can't make money on these, you can't sell them type thing. You can contact the designer and say, look, I'm opening a shop, if I give you 10% of the proceeds type thing, and they'll allow it. But stuff like this, it's just geometric shapes, so making your own vase and then doing exactly whatever you want with it is perfectly within a right. It's sort of a grey area, because a lot of what's made, like the Nautilus and stuff like that, the person that created the model doesn't have the
rights to it.
So
but
they
Marvel,
can't tell somebody
does.
that you can't.
So the publisher does.
The designers will say, like, oh, you can't sell my model of Daenerys, but the thing is, they don't own the rights to the model. So it's one of these things that's kind of, most people turn around and say, I'm happy for you to sell the printed item, but I don't want you to sell the files to print the item.
That's
so a lot
beast,
of designers will sell other makers the files in order to make these prints, and then people will print them and sell the physical print.
Yeah. Okay. So do you paint all of them?
I haven't painted any of them yet.
No?
I have probably about 40 or 50 models, different Marvel models.
Are you good at painting?
Not overly. I've done a little bit of Warhammer when I was younger.
I'd be scared. I'd be scared. I'd be scared. Such a beautiful thing, and it's just like, for me to put paint on this, I would have to be really confident I knew what I was doing.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, something like that. I mean, it's kind of, if I messed it up, you just reprime it and then repaint it again type thing. Yeah. And there's some absolutely phenomenal tutorials online on YouTube and everything like that of people painting their prints and how to paint it. This guy that designs these are absolutely gorgeous, and he takes the same designs, because I spoke to him about it, because I'm a huge Alien fan, and of Geiger's artwork, who was the original creator of the Alien design and everything. And I said, like, a lot of his design is very Geiger-esque, and he didn't realize it until he looked up the artist and just saw more of his work, and it's phenomenal, the stuff that he comes out with. Well, it is.
I mean, that's very much similar. You've got the kind of like, almost like kind of the alien head and the kind of intricacies that kind of come down the side and everything from the original graphic novels and comic books that were generated after the Ridley Scott film. But yeah, I mean, I think they elaborated the best in Aliens rather than Alien, because Alien, yes, there was the alien and that was the kind of thing, but they really got to go for it in Aliens, because they got to show a lot more of how the aliens were made up, because there were so many more of them. But this is really great stuff. I wouldn't know where to begin with these kind of, with the, even getting a paintbrush into some of these areas.
Well, I think I sent you, because I didn't actually paint this one, but I did use what's called rub and buff. and it's I think the other name for it is gilding wax.
Like that?
And this was it. Yeah, it was a silver rub and buff, and instead of using a brush, you put it on a cloth, and you only need a tiny little bit of it, and you just rub the cloth over it, and it gets all the highlights.
Yeah,
without getting all the
raised
shadows.
Areas. So all the raised areas get a shading, and then all the So it gives a contrast.
It came out really well. I think I got the idea from another maker who's on YouTube called Uncle Jesse.
Yeah,
he done this, and there's different rub and buffs. There's silver, there's bronze, gold, everything like that. So I just thought, well, I'd give it a try, and it came out really well. And it looks like it's sort of like not quite made of iron or something, but it doesn't look like it's made of plastic. And people are always kind of very surprised when they see like the models or anything, and they pick them up and they don't weigh anything. It's really disconcerting, because like I'm used to models being made of lead and all sorts of heavier materials or solid plastic, and because these they have like a 10% infill, so they don't weigh anything, and it still astounds me when I pick up the prints and accidentally break them and stuff like that. But the good part about it is if I break something, I can just reprint and get another one. So it's not too much of an issue. I have broken them.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine you need to print a pretty scary door for this to be on, wouldn't you? It's a hell of a door knocker.
I think I gave this one to my nephew, I believe. I think he liked it. He
really?
wanted this one.
God.
But, yeah, it would look awesome hanging up somewhere, and
just above your bed, like with glowing. You could put some glowing paint, glow in the dark paint for the eyes, and that's it. This thing glowing at you in the dark. Jesus.
Well, the good thing on the Terminator head is the designer took the idea of making a hollow from the eye socket down to the bottom, so then you could put an LED up through into the eye socket. That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
this was a brilliant print. I think it was by a guy called Nico Industries, and I watched the movie. I got very welled up at the end of the movie, and then this came out shortly afterwards. And
what movie? Do you remind me what movie? I'm trying to recognise the character.
This is Iron Man holding his daughter.
Oh, it was Iron Man holding his daughter, was it? It was Iron Man holding his daughter but he's got like, is it the Infinity?
He's got the arm after he's used the gauntlet, but it's kind of a sentiment to the I think it's the last bit where he says "love you," because the base has actually got "love you 3000" on it.
Right, okay. That's nice.
It's kind of the whole thing. It was a brilliant design, and it's you can actually see in the photograph where the layer lines are on the girl's arm. So that's where like primers fill in for, and you got to fill in the seams like at his waist where it shows like his legs were printed separately from the upper half and stuff like that. But it's phenomenal when you start with a print bed with nothing on it, and then suddenly a few hours later you've got a model like this coming out. It's still almost magical. And there's people out there, I'd love to do it myself. They do time-lapse videos where they set the printer for every time it prints a layer, it moves the head out of the way and takes a photograph. So then by the end of it, they can put all the photographs together and do a time lapse of this print just coming out of nowhere.
Okay. Oh, yeah, there you go.
And it's just
C3PO and everything. I mean, these are brilliant. These are great. And you got a kind of
Kylo
Ren there. Yeah.
These are by a designer called Sanix online, and I've continuously bought his work because they're just phenomenal. I'd love to have the skills to be able to do the sort of stuff that they do. It's the artists that are they're phenomenal. I just print the stuff, but the artists that make the stuff is just unbelievable.
He's brilliant. Really good stuff though. I like that Iron Man one. Yes, I mean models for Iron Man and Marvel and all these kind of intricate models that are all painted and everything are, they go for a pretty penny.
Yes.
I've seen quite a few of them, but so intricate, aren't they? They're so intricate, the details on them.
Yeah, it's just.
If you think that the traditional way of making something like this would be to have a mold, wouldn't it? It would be to have a mold and then have a pouring, and then it would be made out of some kind of thing, and then so that mold would have to have all this intricate stuff in it. But the 3D printer, you just get the final product straight off.
It's a new an experimental part of one of the slicing programs is actually to take a model and it will create a mold print instead of the model actually printing. It will print the mold for it.
Oh, really? So it will kind of like give you the opportunity to pour whatever product in.
So instead of you printing the model, it prints an actual square block which inside has the model, and then you can pour your resin into it. And I guess it's just a case of like, instead of me spending 8 hours printing a single model, you can spend twice that printing a mold, and then you just remake molds of the same model.
It's brilliant.
Haven't tried it myself yet, but it's certainly something I will try in the future.
It's brilliant work, really. Can you just tilt your camera just so I'm cutting off the top of your head there by the looks of it? There you go. So that's brilliant. Also, during this horrible COVID experience, you've actually been doing your bit for helping people with PPE as well, haven't you?
I did. It's been stopped now.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah.
The government stopped it, but
should have got their finger out then, shouldn't they? Should have got their finger out quicker rather than look a good gift horse. I can understand it needs to be British safety and things like that, but there were people in real need for these things when we were at peak, and the government weren't getting there fast enough. So people like you, there was a community doing this, wasn't there? You were part of a big community of people doing this.
Yeah, there was several groups came up online of people turning around and saying, look, I think we could make these shields. So people started making their own designs of the headbands, and the physical shield part is just overhead projector sheets.
That's right. And then it just clips in, doesn't it? And that's it. They're very basic.
It was just a 4-hole punch, putting the holes in. People made the design so it would fit the holes for the 4-hole punch, and they were snapped up very quickly. I think in the space of 4 weeks.
I saw some of your posts and you were delivering stuff. It was brilliant, man. It was a really good, innovative thing to do. And also, I mean, it must have cost as well for materials and everything to actually do it. So
yeah, I mean, it was a small thing for me. I mean, I'm one of the lucky ones that actually kept my job during this time and everything like that. So every spare penny, and because I'm not doing anything, there was spare pennies. I'd snap up filament, and then it got to a point where there was so many people doing it. The companies that were making the filament couldn't make it fast enough for the demand. And as the demand went up, all of the Amazon filament doubled in price and went up by 30% or more. There's a really nice place in Manchester that was making filament, and they were doing really well getting filament out. So I'd get filament twice a week, and that was like £60 probably per order, and that's just 4 reels. A reel would probably do maybe 30 to 40 shields.
Okay.
And I was doing batches of 50 and repeat customers as well. Well, not really customers because they didn't pay anything for it. I was just giving them to people. It was like care homes. I think there was a chiropodist that wanted some. Yeah. And I think care homes were the biggest one because they were just left out, and they still had to work with the elderly and the frail and everything else. So they were worried about taking anything in. And even though we did turn around and say, like, these can't be 100% sanitized, but they can be cleaned. It's kind of, they're designed to be a one-time use. It's kind of, you go out, you work it, and then you throw it in the bin. The acetate can be cleaned and reused and everything like that. So we were giving them out in batches of 50 and 100, and I think eventually I made probably about 600 shields. And I was also making they call it ear protectors, which were you saw them on one of the pictures. They were like a long piece of plastic, and what they do is they put them on the back of the head. It takes the elastic off the back of the ear, which a lot of them were suffering with sores from and stuff like that. And it got me in contact with a lot of nice people. And there was people that there was a couple that they were sewing masks. So they were very friendly, and they offered me masks in return for the shields and stuff like that. And it really did. I think in this crisis, it really did bring out a lot of good people and create a lot of good community between, especially in Felixstowe.
It really has. I'm quite refreshed by so many people being considerate. Even out on the street, I find the majority of people, even when you stop and you kind of come off the path, when I'm on my dog walk or something like that, and I just stand at one side, they're like, "Thank you very much," like that one. Thank you. It's just like everybody's just very kind of a little bit more connected. Obviously, there are people that aren't connected with reality, but you get that with a lot of people. But I kind of like, my perspective of it is that I'm not probably the one in danger as much, even though I've had a friend recently that actually passed away because of COVID after a heart attack. But it's mainly kind of the people that COVID will attack. People that are shielded, people like my mother, who's not left her home in 10 or 11 weeks. She's not left ever. So I've been doing all of her shopping. She's only really stepped out for a mild bit of exercise. I could probably say about 10 times, probably maybe once a week or something. She doesn't very often, but she's got bronchial and all this. So it's just she's a shielded person, and I'm doing everything for her. And I'm just thinking, well, I'm staying away from everybody because I'm thinking of someone else. I would hate it if I gave it to somebody, or I carried it to somebody unknowingly. And that's the way I think of it. I'm not thinking about me, I'm thinking about other people. And that's just... And when you see people do that, you're really kind of, you're energized by it. You think, well, it's not, the right things. The other thing as well is that, you really do focus on what really matters at the moment. So what really matters? But it's what really matters in general, because before all this, we had Brexit, we had people going off about Trump, like politics, but everything's taken a step back now. What you look like on Instagram, what's your public, thing, what's the, the kind of, the righteous kind of culture. I can't remember what they are, the woke culture, the woke people, and the attacking that everybody's doing on anybody that makes a kind of human mistake. I think this has kind of like made everybody realise, well, we are just human. We are human. That is it. We are fragile human beings, and what we need food, we need human interaction, and we need other humans to survive. That's it. That's those three things. Instagram didn't come in any of those. Twitter didn't come in, but you need that human interaction, and we've gone right back to caveman of why we actually created civilizations, because we need to survive. You can't survive on your own. You can live on your own, like you don't, but you still have to have a certain amount of connection with the outside world, and that outside world is full of people. So I think it's really, I must admit though, it's flipping out. It's not easy, It's not easy at the moment. I'm just going from meal to meal at the moment, man. It's just like, oh, so what am I eating now? Oh, what meal are we on? What day are we on? What meal am I going to do now? But yeah,
I think seeing the community and everything is it's restored a little bit of my faith in humanity. And I as you say, it's showing people the fundamentals of life, like what really is important. And it's also shown who is key in survival in the country. Absolutely. When the country is brought to its knees, we're not looking to Cowie or The Only Way is Essex or anything like that to survive. We're looking to key workers. We're looking to health workers. We're looking to these people that are putting their own lives and their families' lives in danger in order to help others.
Even down to delivery, like the guys restocking the co-op. The guys delivering from Amazon. Key workers, supply chain people, all of a sudden just like, whoa, these are the people that keep us running. These are the people that keep us going. And I really hope as well that after all this, not that the NHS needed any more public support, but the government cannot ignore the importance of the NHS anymore.
No, not after saving our Prime Minister's life. It's just, I mean, they were important before, but it's I think now it's more people.
But saying they're important,
how important they are.
Saying they're important was always just that was enough. All right, well, no, pay them. Pay them. Why are they got to work? Why are they got to work stupid hours, almost kill themselves, to do it for like 22 grand or something like that, and a banker can give himself a bonus of like £1 million. Well, he's a key. Yep. Why is he key? Why is he key? Why somebody that's just made another millionaire another million today? That's key, but. They could say the same about, sports. I think sports has played an important role, but then again, I think that's been taken down a notch as well because, people can actually live without sports. It is entertainment.
I've still never been a fan of somebody being paid hundreds of thousands of pounds a week to kick a bag of wind around the field. I know it's our own fault. It's our own fault they get those wages, but I've never been a sports fan at all. I'll watch England play, but I don't understand how somebody, like the Joe Average, it takes a lifetime. And at the moment, people aren't even getting on the property ladder. And these people are earning the equivalent to a house a week.
A week. But, with sports, though, it's across the board. It's kind of like, I follow basketball, as you know, and that's ridiculous money as well. But I'm glad that some of the our own footballers, like Dele Alli and people like that, have kind of, from their homes, have gone, right, I'll help out your charity. Quite a few sports people have actually donated a sizable amount of money to healthcare and things like that while they've been off, because they do realise they're in a privileged position. The ones that are very aware that they're in a privileged position are, and humbled by it. Because, like you said, when everything stops, they can't do anything. It's a nice to have at the end of the day. You got to kind of think of what the nice to haves are. And just think, what should I focus on?
It's entertainment. It's not for survival. It's not a necessity. It's entertainment.
It's not. I could kind of argue as well. Like the top of this format is someone like Joe Rogan or something like that, which I mentioned. He's my idol. He's my kind of like inspiration and everything like that. And he gives a great amount of entertainment. He tries to inform, which is also another thing. But he obscene amount of money. But it's not his fault. He kind of like. He's not really pushed it. I wouldn't say that he's actually pushed it, but he's got like 56 million subscribers or downloads like every week to his show. I was like, that's a lot of reach for someone that's just like, just chatting to people. But there you go.
I also think with that fame, it's a double-edged sword, because I think with that sort of thing, you always have to be very careful of what platform. You say and who you, who you piss off, really. It's just kind of, I think, wasn't it one of his recent programs caused a lot of upset because he was talking about how he'd been tested for COVID, and everybody that comes on gets tested for COVID as well, and everybody was like, well,
how did you get tested?
But the NHS staff and people on the front line can't get tested. So it's kind of, but we're in that sort of world where everybody has a world platform. So everybody has an opinion that the world needs to know about. So it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to end up pissing off somebody.
I would have thought so, yeah. It's kind of like, it's just keeping those people that you kind of value, that you want to keep hold of, and you want to keep kind of like, happy, or the ones that you respect, that you kind of like go, well, that, because I think the majority of his listenership understand what he's trying to do. And I kind of, if he's got the resources, to have a private doctor to privately get these tests done and then keep his show running, and he can test all of his mates, through his show, then
he's got the money too.
He's got the money. I mean, he got Tom Green on there recently, and do you remember Tom Green? Tom Green that used to be on MTV and stuff. I mean, he had Tom Green on there, and Tom Green's a notorious recluse.
Road Trip.
He was in Road Trip, but he had the Tom Green show, which was the thing that on MTV, which I remember, started it in the early 2000s, and he was the first one to set up like a home studio and stream his own show over cable modems and things like that. Which actually gave Joe Rogan the idea of having his own podcast, because he was doing podcasts way before. And he actually managed to get him out of his house. And he said, I haven't left my house in 10 weeks. You've got me out here. And he says, and you've nicely, got me a test and everything. He says, I've been panicking about this stuff and I feel really good now because, and it's just, it was just one of those really kind of moments where I think he was just like, well, I've got the resources, I can just, I can have all my guests and my mates tested and keep the lights on, really. Bit of entertainment. Wanted to ask though, before we wrap up and everything, this has been brilliant so far. This is fascinating. I hope that all those pictures came out, because otherwise I'll be editing them back in anyway. When you're waiting for these like 7-day prints and everything, what are you doing in between? What are your other things? I mean, what are you kind of, are you still gaming?
I haven't, but I just yesterday saw that Epic Games has GTA 5 for free on the PC.
Oh, is it? Oh, I didn't know that.
Hot tip. You can download it for free. Yeah, I downloaded it last night. It's 50 gig, but it's free.
Wow.
So I haven't done, because my gaming days were like back with Medal of Honor and stuff like that, and we had a group of us that would meet up weekly and fight other groups and stuff like that. And I loved the getting other people involved and having a group of people doing it. And it just seems like because I'm the single one without the girlfriend or wife or anything like that, I'm the one that's available and nobody else is available. And
I'm the same.
A lot of my gaming friends have just kind of drifted away and very rarely speak and stuff like that. So it's a shame, but I still think that if I found someone to game with, it would be enjoyable. I'd love to see, I saw an advert for the World War Z Game of the Year edition. I bought the normal edition, and that is awesome, but you just need other people to play with, because it's not as fun by yourself. But GTA is the same, and it's kind of, it's one of those games where you can play it by yourself. Well, but I think doing the heists with other people would just be an absolute laugh.
I've never played GTA. To be honest, I started GTA 5 on the PC and I didn't get very far with it. I don't know why. I just didn't get very far. I felt maybe I've done so many GTAs that I didn't want to do another one at the time. So I haven't really got in there. But yeah, I've had to do that. I've had to get gaming groups, together, and then like people have kind of dropped off, and then we found a game, then we've dropped off. At the moment, when this all started, I thought it was important to get one together. So Ali got a PS4, and he started. So what is it we started playing? So we originally were playing Battlefront 2, Star Wars Battlefront 2, which we still play now and again. That's great. Honestly, that's changed so much. That game, I know they've just
really.
It
was kind of,
mate. It's different. It's a different game now. Honestly, we got a friend of ours, Jack. So a friend of my mate Ash, Jack, and he said, and Ash says, "Oh, we play Battlefront 2," and he's like, "Battlefront 2? He said, I ain't played that since launch. That's rubbish. That game." He went, "No, it's really good," and he went, "Right." So we got him in, and he goes, "My God, this game's changed." And I went, "Yeah, it has, isn't it?" He said, "It's totally different." He said, there's no paywall, there's no, you don't have to buy anything.
Microtransactions.
Yeah, there's no microtransactions. He said, there's all characters in it. Like there's so many characters in it now, and they're all for free, all download. It's a really good game anyway. And they've just announced that they've ceased. That's the last update now, so they're ceasing. There's a big petition out there to try and keep it going. But that was really good. And then we bought the Division 2, which was about £8 on the PSN store, and we've done up to level 30 on it. Jack's gone way further than that, and he's gone probably. But I'm kind of struggling a little bit because I've kind of got my character to a certain level, and then just like I'm just going to be rinse and repeat, and the numbers are just going to be going up at this point. It's not actually going to be going. But the thing I'm playing at the moment, I just got NBA 2K20, which I'm really struggling with because I can tell why it was $3.99, because that game it plays like a bit of a slug. If I'm comparing it to basketball games, it's not as fun as I would like. And Jedi Fallen Order, which is the Star Wars
watched a playthrough. That seems to be my biggest thing at the moment is watching somebody else play something. It saves me 50 quid. So.
It does, yeah.
But it's a very good game. It's a very good story, and
it's
I
hard.
think it's a bit repetitive in the what's the game? Uncharted.
Yeah,
Uncharted kind of platform climbing and stuff like that. And a lot of it kind of you work your way through, and then you have to go back to the place later on. And
I did read. See, when I got it, I was kind of like, right, and I watched some YouTube videos and like tips I wish I knew before I started playing and all this. So I watched all those. And I was really annoyed with the game at first. Just get this right, I thought it was terrible. I really didn't like it. I thought, what the hell is this and everything? Because I approached it like it was Force Unleashed. You know, like the Force Unleashed, the original Force Unleashed and Force Unleashed 2, which is just a hack and slash, straight through, beat 'em up, all this kind of stuff. It's not that. It's Dark Souls.
Nope.
It's Dark Souls. It's Bloodborne, which I never got on with. You know, the parry, you can die off of 2 hits. So when the combat comes, which the combat is quite fleeting, to be honest, but it gives it more weight because it's more of an exploration game. And knowing it's an exploration game, whenever you're told to go to another planet as part of the story, I turn around and go, but have I done everything here? And then I kind of turn around and I take my new powers and I try and get through. And what I'm doing is I'm actually making the game nice and broad for myself now, because I think if I just went straight down the quick route of the story, I wouldn't see half the stuff that was in there, and I'd have a very short gaming experience. So
and a lot of it's like finding force. Is it like
cosmetic
it's like force
stuff.
Areas where it tells you part of the story after reading it, and from what I saw, there was a lot of like you make your way through an area, and there's parts you can't get to because you don't have the ability.
You don't have the
and
ability,
then you have to go back there once you get the ability.
Yeah, but then I've also found that certain planets, you can't get through there, but then if you just go and follow a little bit more of the story or backtrack a little bit, you'll actually unlock the stuff on the planet that you thought you didn't have, and that's it. You can do it. You know, I'm enjoying it, put it that way. I am enjoying it. And when you get the combat wrong, you want to throw the controller out the window, because the combat is not as responsive as Dark Souls or anything. I'm going to be honest, it's not. It's a little bit laggy. There's bugs in the game. There's graphical bugs in the game, which have been well documented and everything. So there is some. It hasn't got the polish of, say, like a God of War, which was brilliant, by the way. The God of War on PS4. I'd highly recommend that if you want an in-depth story.
I love
and just enjoy
the ending to God of War.
Oh, so
I'm hoping that
no spoilers
to the next game, because they've just been phenomenal. The story, and I just love the artistic license to all the gods and everything that he just he beats. And does he beat them?
Does he? But does he? So there are some good stuff there, man. Yeah.
Smashes them down pretty good. But yeah, I haven't played many video games. I unfortunately was one of the people that fell for the No Man's Skype hype.
Yes, I remember
although
you saying.
Now I've heard
it's better.
They've added what was promised at the beginning, but at the beginning that was atrocious, and it had maybe 20% of the stuff that they promised was going to be in it. But it's all in it now, and it's supposed to be really
I played
good.
it recently. I played it recently on my PC. You? Yeah, I played it recently on my PC because I had the same experience of you. I kind of went round a friend's house and I went, when was this game made? The 90s. This looks awful. I said, like, you know, the NPCs in it were like, what am I playing this on disc? Is this on floppy? What is this? And I just found it horrible. I was just like, is this what the hype was about? Now I've got the latest kind of update, and I've got it on PC, and I've got the latest update. I was like, oh, then this is a totally different game. This looks polished. This looks far more like a modern game now. But it is. I couldn't really get into it though, because it was so. You know, there's so much going on now. Like there was like, you know, kind of alien worlds, and there's little quests, and there's this and there's that. And I was just, I don't know where to begin. You know what I mean? And you have to kind of really
it's
like that. It's
multiplayer now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's multiplayer. But also the VR. There's a VR add-on, so they've got it in VR now as well. So you can put a VR headset on, and you can experience all the worlds in first person, your ship and everything like that. That's supposed to be quite good. I think there's some. You'll have to check YouTube, but I think there might have been some problems with the interface of how they'd actually made you interface with the world. It was a bit sketch, but the actual trailers and everything looked really good for it, and I thought that would be immersive.
I haven't used my Rift in about a year.
You got a Rift?
Haven't plugged it in for a long time. Yeah, I bought the Rift.
Morty experience.
Yeah, I probably bought it about. Must be about 3 years ago now, and there was Echo was a awesome game. It was like a space simulator type thing. You played an android and stuff, and that was quite something. When you see space, and then you've got to float across space from one platform to another on the edge of a ship, and your stomach just drops. It's quite something. It does trick the brain. I think. I don't think when we went to the gaming lounge, did we go on the VR?
Yeah,
I don't think we went on the
Did we go on the VR? You went on the VR, didn't you? Yeah, I think you did.
I remember doing the plank.
That's it.
The plank, and
you did that. I don't. I think you did it. You did it with a friend. I think that you came along with. I think I didn't do it. We just went to the gaming lounge, and I think we just played Titanfall.
Haven't been there for a while, and that's supposed to have changed and got a whole new load of stuff. And
is it still going? I'm glad if it's still going, because I was always
yes, as far as I'm aware, it's still there. From what I heard, they had an open VR as well as the one in the room, so you can have other people just laugh at you when you freak out. But I think it's come a long way. I think there was a new Oculus came out not too long ago, which now has cameras on the front of it. So instead of having to take it off, you can use the cameras to see. And is it the Quest? I haven't really kept up with it, but there's a lot of stuff. It was fun, but it was like, I think when I bought it, everything was very much a gimmick. than it was a game. And then the odd game came out that really showed its potential.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, when you need to interact with that stuff as if you're wearing just a normal pair of glasses or contacts or something, that's the only way it's going to work. The augmented reality and stuff, if you're wearing a huge piece of kit, it's not going to work. It's never trailing to your computer. It's not going to work. So
it takes you out of the
it takes you out of the immersion and everything. I think augmented reality is coming, and I think that that's probably going to be the biggest jump in of it. And probably through contact form or glasses, you can get smart glasses and things like that, which kind of had head-up displays in just a normal pair of glasses.
Stark glasses.
Yeah, so a bit of stark tech in there. I think that'll happen quite there. But Elon Musk was on Joe Rogan recently talking about the neural net. He's quite confident that in 5 years there'll be the first trials of the neural net to make adjustments to brain to help people with kind of like brain disabilities, like kind of mobile disabilities and things like that caused by brain injury. And he seems to think in 5 years then there'll be the first neural net, which will be the quickest interface between you and a computer. It's like, okay.
And it'll be Ready Player One. It'll be, you won't
even Ready Player One
worry about playing a game, you'd be in the game.
Yeah, but even Ready Player One, I was like, how immersive would that be in that setup? I think the book did a better way of actually showing a more immersive experience with the kind of VR setups and things like that, and the suits that they were wearing, things like that. The film just kind of like, that would still not really interest me.
I mean, the technology is coming along. I mean, they have the the haptic suits.
Haptic suits, yeah, where you get
feel sensation.
Shots, yeah.
And I've seen, I think it was the one show where they did like a VR like army simulation, and then they had a load of paint guns dotted around, and they were on this platform which the army uses, where you can actually run and walk on it in situation. And they were playing a game, and every time they got shot, one of these paint guns would shoot them, which was interesting. I think that would hurt, but it would make it quite fun. And I think it's just it's not slowly progressing. I think it's progressing very fast. I mean, even with like with my hobby, the 3D printers and stuff, it's like the same with computers. You buy the newest computer, and 6 months down the line, something better has come out.
So where do you see
they're being restricted?
Go on. No, it's go on. They're being restricted.
They're just being restricted by the technology. Like with computers, it's keeping things cool is the thing that's stopping them from progressing further than they are now. And it's the same with the printers. The printers, they'll bring out a printer, and 6 months down the line, the communities come up with all ideas of how they improve it, and then the next one comes out, and the next one comes out, and it's just continuously evolving.
But this is the nature of technology now, isn't it? Collaboration. Technology has allowed us to collaborate on a global scale and get things done a lot more quickly.
Yeah. And now, I mean, you've got NASA using 3D printers on the space station, and you've got container ships are now using 3D printers to print spare parts while they're out at sea. You've got there's 3D printers that will lay molten metal. So the metal printers, there's other ones that use it's a powdered metal that they use, and this is creating products and everything. It's just, I think Formula One is now using carbon fiber printers to make some of their parts. It's it's unstoppable. I think we're unstoppable. It's kind of, once you get a world community and you get a percentage of that's working on something, there's just no stopping people.
Yeah, it's just moving so fast. Ever since the kind of the birth of the internet, being available in homes, that generation, like myself, that was a kid when got my first modem. All those kids started talking to each other, and then they became adults that were talking to each other, and they became professionals, started talking to each other, and then all of a sudden it came with this whole collaborative effort. Global collaborative effort, and that's why technology is just zinging now. And it's just, all we did was improve our communication method. That was it. We just improved
like
the way that we communicate.
Beta testing.
That was it. I mean, it was just a case of improving. It was kind of like, you know, it was the change in the printing press. When the printing press was created, it you know, technology burst ahead, because all of a sudden, like, you know, information could be printed in books, information could be printed in newspapers, and that was a communication form that got out to the masses. Then that masses got to ingest that information, and then improve on it, and then feed back into it. So it's the same thing with the internet. So just to kind of end, where do you think, so you've already mentioned about NASA and things, and I think I saw in the Lost in Space show on Netflix, which is very good, they've got 3D printers on there and they're printing parts and everything. I was like, 3D printing. Where do you think it's going to actually go? I mean, how far ahead? I mean, what are we talking? What's going to be 3D printed, game-changingly 3D printed in like the next 10 years? What advancement? What are we going to be taking 3D prints maybe, which are going to be common?
They've already started it, and I think the game changer is they're now printing organs and
replacement organs for human beings.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Out
think
of what material?
The latest one is ocular implants.
Eyes.
I'm not entirely sure what they use, but they one of the articles that I read, they printed a living heart. And it was a phenomenal thing. I think it's the way, what was it? Face Off.
Yeah.
When the guy gets his ear shot off.
Yeah.
And they were 3D printed a replicant ear.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the next thing. It's going to get to a point where they can 3D print like flesh that won't be rejected by the body. It won't see it as a foreign object because it will be made.
So you're about I mean, we're talking cloning here, aren't we? You know, the potential for cloning.
It will be very much the same. I mean, it will be like Westworld type thing, and Terminator and everything. I think it's like all the things that we kind of saw. I mean, Terminator was back in the 80s and stuff like that, but Westworld and everything, it's kind of, I think that's where it's going. I think once you start seeing like people having organs built and cartilage and bone and everything like that, it's just I think even now they're 3D printing casts.
Yeah.
So if you break a leg or anything like that, instead of having like the full cast around your leg, you have a 3D printed cast, which is like a splint more than anything, and it's hard enough to keep your leg straight. And I mean, there's I think with the whole COVID thing, there was a whole point where there was people designing parts for the ventilators. So the hospital ventilators, instead of only being able to do one person, they were inventing and printing these tubes that made it so they could do 4 or 5. And it was just, it's astounding and amazing.
But again, strife in the human, in the world. Humanity goes through strife. They go through wars. They go through pandemics. They go through atrocities, things like that. The ingenuity of people comes out in these, and it pushes everything forward. They always say for all the kind of losses that were made during the war, and there's just there's no way, the amount of technology that was actually created in those years, define the next 50 years of advancement in the human race. But yeah, it's a hard way to do it, but I much prefer just the birth of the internet and actually accelerate in that way. It's a lot easier on the body count, I think, but I think our age, we're in the best position for that transition that we had. I mean, we back when we were kids, we had the dial-up modems. We had the phones. The phones were like the old GPO phones, like that one. I remember that, bell ringing phone, everything like that. Can't mention that to a kid.
And when there was phone booths out in the streets, and you couldn't phone home on a mobile phone, you had to find a phone booth to phone home.
Well, you had to remember your numbers. How many?
Yeah,
I had a book.
I still remember my old numbers.
I remember
I still remember the old house number.
I remember my old number.
It's like,
I had a book. I had like a little address book. I had everybody's number, and I'm like, who's that? I'm gonna call right him. I'm gonna. I used to get on the phone and my little address book, like, hello.
Yeah, I still remember like the days of school where your teachers would turn around and say, you're going to have to learn this because you won't have a calculator in your pocket at all times. And now people are like, yeah.
Yeah, but well, not to go off subject, but I did actually watch a YouTube video where a guy actually took a GCSE maths exam. It was an American chap, and he went and did the GCSE maths exams. He had a master's in math, and he just passed it. he just passed it, and I was watching him do it. I was like, I do not understand any of this, and I mean I was terrible at maths anyway. My brain just isn't made that way. But yeah, it was just like, you know. There's these things, man. There's these things. Well, look, I'm going to wrap up now. You've got Eurovision on. I'm sure you're dying to watch it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mate, thank you so much for coming on. It's been brilliant to share some of your designs and everything, and it's great to hear about, you know, I really hope that you do, you know, after this lockdown. I know I'll be doing it as well because I'm going to go out into the UK and move it because I've got my dog, got Loki, and it's much easier for me to go somewhere in the UK with him than abroad. So yeah, I think I'm going to take advantage of it and I think smell the flowers a little bit and enjoy it.
Yeah, just find the towns that aren't on the map.
Yeah, find the towns that aren't on the map.
Just find old country pubs and B&Bs.
That's it. That's the way to go. But thanks, mate. And come back on any time that you want. And
definitely, just let me know when. You want to hear more? I might even have a BD1.
A BD1.
BD1.
Really?
The little robot from.
Really?
The Fallen Order. That print's out there. It's the design is done.
Oh, okay.
I can print that.
Excellent. Well, I've got.
I'll bring that to the next show.
I've got the. I don't know if you can see it back there, but I've got the one out of the new Star Wars films. A couple of what's he called? Oh, what's it? BD8. BD8. Yeah. BD8. Yeah. So I've got him back there, but I've got a couple of him round. But right, as always, I'm going to turn to camera and say thank you very much for tuning in today from the Man Cave. Remember to like, subscribe, it helps me out. Check all the things. I'm going to put some stuff in description, make sure all these photos come through, and anything that Matt wants to put on there, especially about the Suffolk Mine stuff. I think that's a really good thing, and I'm going to put that down in the description as well. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, my guest Matt. It's been lovely to talk to me old mucker, and we'll see you all again soon. Thank you. Goodbye.